All right, so gonna get this started. Welcome everybody to the Backstage with Kennedy show. I got John from the Lovesick Bombs here, and I am very excited because, firstly, I I'm a big fan of music, but I'm also a big fan of art. So I love what their collective does. They kind of branch the two together, and they've created a collective of not just musicians but artists as well, and I really punk rock flavor. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing good. Stoked it's Friday.
Good. And I've been working all week, so I totally get that, dude. I I'm allergic. I'm asthmatic, so it's been tough because I've been inside a dusty store all week. But we're here and we're doing good. So tell me, John, why did you start the collective? What was your original thoughts behind it, bud?
Well, I mean, I've been a fan my whole life of my favorite bands and my favorite artists have tended to be people from my own local area.
Hmm.
So probably in the top 10 most listened bands that I've ever had, at least five of them are just hometown heroes that nobody outside of 500 miles ever heard of, but I played their tapes until they broke and saw them every time they played, right?
Yep, yep.
Because there's bands that are really good at traveling and running a small business and
Hmm.
touring, merch and promotion, and music.
Yep.
And there's just a ton of musicians that are only good at music. And
Hmm.
so there's just so many. I lived in Michigan and San Francisco and Hawaii and New York City, and they were just killer bands. There's killer bands everywhere, right? And there's just
Oh yeah.
phenomenal musicians, and there's so many amazing songwriters and musicians that just aren't good or aren't dedicated to the side of music that requires travel and promotion and business, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So um, I've always had a really personal connection with the music and the artists that I like. You kind of have a relationship with a band when you see them a bunch of times and you know their records. And it was always fun to either play shows with the bands that I loved or be able to see them uh, more than just no effects making it to Michigan once a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The idea was essentially to do that, take that exact same concept of who are my favorite bands in the New York area, um, and grab the singer of Habits, who's a phenomenal singer, the singer of the Van Saters, who I love his voice, he's like a punk rock Bob Dylan, and then the drummer of Night Surf, who's just a beast on drums, and kind of put together my own super group, a husband and wife team who are jazz musicians that do punk rock covers and jazz, and a phenomenal piano player who's in like an indie pop. She leads an indie pop group called Blank Paper, and just get all of these musicians together that my girl and I loved going and seeing live, and have them collaborate on songs, and then take those songs and commission artists that I am a fan of to do original pieces of art based on the songs that the bands created in the studio.
That's really sick. That's really sick. And I do find that you do have a very eclectic sound. Like it does sound like there is a lot of different like flavors coming into the music. It's not just like punk. You know what I mean? There's definitely, I get that you were saying, there's a little bit of jazz in there, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I totally get that when I hear your music. That's really cool actually.
Definitely.
So when you so congrats on the Punked News article today, the release. That's wicked.
Thank you.
And congrats, yeah, congrats on the release in general. I really enjoyed that song. I saw that you went a little bit away from the politicalness. I saw your little blurb on on so you changed the video last second throughout this COVID thing. Love the cat idea, man.
Oh,
Wicked,
cool.
wicked.
Yeah,
Was that?
I mean, it's my favorite piece of art that's come out so far, and I to be transparent, I had no idea that Punk News was going to run my little description that I put of the video. I was just kind of like, here, this video doesn't make a lot of sense, but here's why. I wasn't expecting them to put that in the article, but I'm fine with it. But the art is done by John DeCampos. He goes by Ghostbat. Ghostbat.com is his website. I love the art on it. I like all the stuff he's done for tons of bands, and reached out to him to do the artwork for this song, which was just a really, like, you know, it's a pretty high spirited punk rock song, you know, protest song. And his artwork is, you know, essentially a house for sale that's also on fire. And then, and it really kind of speaks volumes and goes really well with, you know, the kind of cynical nature of the song. But then when I was making the video for it, with everything that's going on in the Northeast here in the States right now, it was just a bummer. So I just grabbed a bunch of kittens and filmed them, you know, cut them together with the lyrics.
I love it. I think a lot of people in this world, you know, they love music that has a meaning behind it, but they also want some sort of escape from reality sometimes. And doing that fun little cat video, compilation video is quite, it's amusing, but it's also kind of gives you that little bit of an escape. You know what I mean? Like, you can smile about it throughout the whole thing, even if it is something very political.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Well, I think disco came out of the ashes of Vietnam, right? So, and I kind of assume that the whole world being hooked on electronic music right now with no words and just dance, you know, kind of speaks volumes to where the collective mindset of so many people are, because we've had so much chaos over the last several years. So it's very apparent that escapism is alive and well. I normally don't try to subscribe to it, but COVID sucks, especially.
It's a thing, man. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So tell me, obviously with especially New York, like, you guys got hit hard.
Yeah.
What like music venues in New York are probably really struggling because of this. A lot of them are probably shutting down. If there is a venue out there in Brooklyn, where you're from, if there's a venue that somebody from, say, me, for example, in Toronto, when I come to New York one day, what's the venue that you would say everybody has to go to?
Oh man, that's tough because I have a bunch of favorites.
Well, name off a couple. I'll do a little tour when I go down there.
Okay. So, far from the biggest, but you got to go to the Gutter, which is Gutter Bars in Williamsburg. They bought a 9-lane bowling alley from Wisconsin that was from 1942, broke it down, put it on trucks, moved it to this little dive bar in Brooklyn, and the front of the bar is a bowling alley, and the back of the bar, which is a separate room, fits maybe 80 to 100 people, but they have really great sound technicians there. There used to be a guy there named John. The guy who books there is named Mike. And some of like the most rockin', like awesome little touring bands coming through there. I've seen killer shows there. So the Gutter Bar, Knitting Factory, I've loved since I moved to New York City. You know, it's just got phenomenal sound, and they just have their game together. Man, Brooklyn Steel is great. There used to be a club called Matchless that had a little back room that I rented that back room out on Halloween several years ago, and then booked a bunch of bands that I was fans of, and then had each of them do a cover set. So I had White Tigers, who was a great Brooklyn punk rock band back then, they did an Alkaline Trio set. Somebody did a Descendants set that was headlined by a Misfits set, of course, because it was Halloween. Yeah, so I loved the back room at Matchless. I shouldn't go on about that because it's gone. But so I guess those would be my top two. Is you got to hit Gutter, you got to hit Knitting Factory.
Okay, awesome. I see Knitting Factory on a lot of bands when they go to New York. That seems to be the spot that they stop in. So I mean, excuse my ignorance. I don't know much about like venues in New York, but definitely have seen that on a lot of tour posters.
Yeah,
So
Andrew WK's got a really awesome rock and roll club here too. The sound in there, as you can imagine, is unbelievably thought out and intense. So
mhm,
Santos
mhm.
Party House, it's called. That's a great venue.
Santos Party House, sick name too.
Yeah.
So I haven't really dug into it from this perspective, but I'm curious. So you guys are a collective that is very heavily, because like you do a lot of the art with the music. Are you guys going to be like touring with this as well? I mean, I assume you can't really do like pictures and stuff like that, other than like backdrops when you do tour. But does
So
touring seem like something that you guys are going to do?
no, it's not a band, right? It's
It's a collective.
yeah. I mean, it's really centered
Yeah.
around collaborative songs becoming kind of collaborative art. The
Mm-hmm.
a few of the bands and band members that have recorded so far play Fest. Do you know Fest in Florida?
Yeah, absolutely, in Gainesville. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a bunch of the guys in those bands, they all play Fest. So I kind of have this pipe dream that we'll do a little Lovesick Bombs show at Fest one year. But yeah, I mean, it's not really a band to go on tour, right? So
Yeah.
it just kind of lives in this own space of in your headphones and on your wall if you're me and you're into art prints.
Yeah, I'm gonna be buying a bunch of the prints for sure.
Okay.
I was browsing them the other day. Anybody who does want them, make sure you go to their website. I'm gonna post the link in my YouTube bio here. But yeah, unbelievable and really affordable. Like $10 for a print. Like, yeah, my walls are basically gonna be painted.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
I had man, I had the awesomest setup for April. So I mean, I planned it for months, and I got an Airbnb in Brooklyn. I booked a studio, and I had a bunch more musicians, a guy coming in from Atlanta, and friends from DC. The singer and guitar player for American television out of DC is coming in. And so we had an Airbnb for a bunch of musicians to come in, spend the weekend, you know, boozing and recording the next round of songs to then get out to artists. And COVID kind of killed that. So as soon as things let up and life comes back to normal, you know, I'm excited. That's probably the next big thing. That and, you know, anybody who listens to this, I have 2 songs that have no art, and I'm going to be running a contest to commission it. So what I normally do is I pay for sketches, and then if the sketches seem to fit with the song, collaborate with the artist and commission a final piece. So since I have 2 songs now recorded with the musicians, that don't have art, I'm going to do the next ones just rather than reaching out to artists I'm a fan of. I'm just going to do an open call for somebody to get paid for their art.
That's wicked.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Well, and it helps grow your community as well, right? Like, it's not just like we all have our arms stretched to certain people, right? But if you can extend that arm to stretch it out to a whole new group of people,
Sure.
that's pretty wicked, right?
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So basically, like, do you have ideas going into these? Like, I find that a lot of your songs do have more of that political feel to it. Like, you do have that track "Freedom" as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the kind of art that you are really drawn to, or is it you have a very like eclectic idea of what interests you for Lovesick Bombs?
Well, I wrote the songs, and I grew up, you know, in the Epitaph, Fat Records, punk rock world, right?
Yeah.
So just imprinted on me, which is one of the fun parts about bringing in so many other musicians, is that they don't come out. They come out less like little Bad Religion copies, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's fun about having people come in who sing really, really well and you know, harmonize together in new ways. so that's exciting. But yeah, I mean, a political focus with music has been something that, art and music and politics have been kind of intertwined for me since I was an angry little 14-year-old.
I heard you mention NoFX earlier, and that really made me think. I was like, huh, like that definitely sounds like that stuff kind of inspired you.
Absolutely. I try to write away from it, but you're just kind of hard coded in some, so.
So there's
that song "Freedom" was actually one of my favorites so far because it's obviously a Rage Against the Machine cover, but that husband and wife jazz team from Brooklyn, who do the entire big band end, that was really fun. That was really fun to do, to take a 5-minute long kind of metal song and turn it into a power pop song that's got a whole big band jazz ending, and kind of merge those styles.
For sure. All right, so I asked you what your favorite venue is. I asked some guys on the show last week that were from Toronto in a band called Dragged In. But I'm wondering, what's your favorite spot to eat in Brooklyn? If you had to put your finger on one spot, you only get one spot. Any type of food.
My favorite place to eat in New York City.
Yes, sir.
That's a very difficult question.
I know that you have so many different cuisines and good food there, man.
All right, so I'll give you a local secret. You gotta have your wallet full, so it's not a regular spot. But
okay.
It's the last place I went out to eat before everything was shut down. Is a place called Beauty and Essex.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really fun place to take people from out of town. So the front looks just like a dive pawn shop, like you're walking into a one-room pawn shop with crappy guitars on the walls and bad jewelry and cases. But if you have a reservation, you push through the back wall and you go into just this really cool, really, really designed bar and restaurant. And the food's out of this world, and the cocktails are out of this world. And you just kind of, you leave the place being that was an experience.
Yeah.
So dishes that come, everything is shared, and dishes come where they bring 5 spoons and the food is on the spoon, and literally you take one spoonful and eat it and then hand it back to the person, and then the next set of food comes in. So you eat 25 different courses that are all the size of a quarter.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
and it has that speakeasy feel to it still, right? Speakeasy yet high class. Yeah.
Yeah, and the cocktails are just outrageous.
Yeah.
Super creative and strong and delicious.
Huh. So John, what have you been doing to get through the quarantine and stuff? I know some people have felt really artistic that I've spoken to, and have actually stepped up the production of their work, and then some people have kind of decided to take almost a break from it. Well, what have you been up to?
Well, I had all the songs written, in their framework. The way that I write them is not how they come out of the studio, because I'm putting 10 different people's hands on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I create the framework of the songs and I write the lyrics, and then they get given to these musicians that are actually really talented, and then they become whatever they become. So I gotta be honest that I was pretty bummed out when this next set of songs to go out to artists got canceled after I had booked it and put it together and gotten everybody I wanted on it and written the song. So I have not been writing, but I have really enjoyed the time at home. So I got a 7-year-old, so
oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's been really awesome. And I guess I can own the fact that I bought an inflatable hot tub for my backyard.
Yeah, man.
So you don't have to. I live in the burbs now, but you don't have to get a permit or concoct a higher fence or get ticketed for it if it's not permanent. So I highly recommend the Intenx inflatable hot tub.
All right, you're living life. Is that basically you've just been hanging out with the 7-year-old In the hot tub?
I was in the hot tub twice today.
Oh man.
Yeah,
It's
I guess that's how I'm getting through.
that a boy. It's so hot in Toronto right now. Like these, I feel like the last couple of days have been like our first like hot days. I can't imagine going in a hot tub right now without jumping in a pool right after. But
Got to
still, man.
get in early, and you get in late.
Okay, all right, that's the tip. Okay, okay.
I mean, other than that, we're spending a lot of time doing things that we used to rush through, right? So rather than just powering through a meal after work and on our way out to the next thing, we've got time to prep a long meal. And my daughter and I watch a bunch of cooking shows, and then so we've gotten into baking cakes, which is hilarious to bake a cake with a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
So I guess that's been my quarantine life.
I'm loving that, like, musicians and stuff, like a lot of touring musicians that I've talked to. The big thing has been, they're always on the go between like whether they're performing or doing their 9 to 5 or in another country. And they've really been enjoying the fact that, they get to sit back and relax and hang out with their family. And you see a lot of people are actually getting not happier because obviously this is a terrible situation, but they're very content. You know what I mean? They're very content with seeing their family every day and getting to enjoy the small things,
Yeah, well, it's definitely a grounding experience.
The world will never be the same. It will never be the same. Well, John, I think we're going to wrap it up, buddy, but I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was awesome talking. Everybody make sure you check out that link at the bottom of the bio there. Really appreciate it, John. You have a good one, okay, buddy, and stay safe.
Thanks for the time. Have a great one.
Hey, thank you. Take care.